What's up everybody, it's Matt from Peter Glenn, and when you're shopping for a snowboard, it's good to know the different pieces and parts that actually go into the construction of the board. This makes it a little bit easier for you to understand and kind of compare so you can find that one board that's going to ride best for you. So there's actually a lot that goes into the design of a snowboard, but when it comes down to it, the construction of it is actually pretty simple. So starting with the core and the inside of the board, that's basically wood, and it's a bunch of pieces of wood that are glued together side by side. Depending on the specific board, depends on how wide those pieces of wood are, also depends on the kind of wood they use. Different woods flex different ways, and they can actually use multiple woods to make the board ride a specific way and give it a specific flex. They also will thin and thicken the core up in certain spots along the length of the board to, again, program the flex and basically kind of tell the board what it's gonna do. Then from there we go to the sidewalls, which are basically on the outside of the board. And those are basically attached to the outside of the core. And those are basically there to protect the board and basically take up all that impact from the side. And they're also there to help beef up the board to make it carve a little bit better too. Then coming through from the bottom of the board to the top of the board, we actually have the inserts, and those are obviously there so you can attach the bindings to the board, or sometimes you'll actually have that channel system, but very similar thing. Basically there to help keep the bindings on because it is very hard to ride a snowboard without bindings. And then on top of the core and under the core, they're gonna add fiberglass. So there's basically two different kinds of fiberglass. There's your biaxial, which is fiberglass going in two directions, and your triaxial, which is fiberglass going in three different directions. And how they lay that up, depending on whether it's full biaxial, it's full triaxial, or they use a mixed glassing where you get one layer of biaxial and one layer of triaxial. This is 100% gonna tell the board how it's gonna flex, how it's gonna pop, and how it's gonna spring, whether it's in and out of your turns or whether it's off of jumps. And then in addition to that, depending on the board, they might have some additives like carbons, flax, I've even seen metal, sometimes more fiberglass in certain places, but basically things that they add on top of the fiberglass to give the board a little bit more energy, a little bit more spring, and a little bit more liveliness. And usually you're gonna see that in your higher end boards where the riders actually demand that. And then obviously on top of that, we have the top sheet of the board, and this is basically to protect the board, protect everything on the inside. Sometimes depending on the materials they use in the top sheet, it can actually add some spring and pop, especially if you use materials like wood or if you use a fiberglass top sheet. And then on the bottom of the board, we're gonna have the base, and we're also gonna have the edges. So the edges are there, made out of metal to dig into those harder, icier conditions so the board doesn't just wash out from underneath you. And then the base is obviously there to give the board speed and add that quickness depending on the type of material. The higher the material, the faster the board's gonna be, the more it can repel that water, and the better it can hold the wax so you can keep that speed and keep you riding all day long. So those are most of the standard pieces and parts in just about any snowboard from any company these days. And obviously there can be some little variances from company to company and board to board depending on how they want the board to ride and depending on the advancements and the technology that are happening. Seems like just as fast as phones these days. But if you got any questions beyond what we talked about in the video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that it's going to fit you and it's going to fit your riding style. Also make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. Head on over to peterglenn.com, grab yourself a new snowboard and get out and ride, because any day of riding is a good day of riding.